Shalom. I like to say all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushua, Bahashem Kodesh. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of GMS, who are the true leaders of Israel today, and salutations to my Akim, who do this work in truth and sincerity, who are risking their lives and their freedoms to do so, as well as the scattered Israelites who come looking like the heathen but are not, by way of their forefathers' seeds who are Israelite men. The true name of the Most High is Yahweh, and his son's name is Yahushai, and the Lord's holy chosen people are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as well as the ones who suffer under the curses in the book of Deuteronomy. This is your brother Yakale from the GMS Jamaica Kingston camp, and this video is a prophecy update regarding the prophecy in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38. All right. Before I get that prophecy, though, I want to take a look at what's happening. Okay, so it says Russia and Turkey reach deal to ditch dollar in trade, and Cairo agrees to pay for some of Russian natural gas supplies in rubles. So, I mean, browsing through RT, I encountered this article and immediately the prophecy jumps to mind. Ezekiel chapter 38 and verse 1. And the word of the Lord Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Gog and Magog is referring to the Russians today, okay? And it is because they dwell in that land over there, all right? That land that they dwell in right now was once where Gog and Magog resided, okay? And say, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Yes, the Most High is against the Russians because at the end of the day, these Russians are Edomites, all right? They are against America and the EU, but that's nothing but Edomites fighting within their own kingdom. And you know what the scriptures say about that, that if Satan be divided against himself, he cannot stand but hath an end, to paraphrase, all right? This kingdom is completely broken down. You know, in the book of Daniel, it talks about it, all right? But to continue, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor. All right, so Yahweh Shemishai is going to bring them back to that spirit, Salakio, that Soviet Union spirit, that warlike spirit, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. So that's going to be the alliances of Russia. All right, so they are going to be going to war, and World War III is a part of biblical prophecy as well. All right, so when it is that Russia goes to war, here are their allies. Persia, first one out the gate. The Persians today are known as the Iranians. The Iranians, their biblical name is that they are the Elamites. All right, in the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 15, it talks about the Carmanians, all right, going forth in rage and wrath. And actually, when you do a quick Google search on the Carmanians, I believe you'll find it at a website called Irano something. It's very easy to find, and it will literally tell you that the Carmanians are Elamites, are Persians, okay? Moving on, Ethiopia and Libya, those are Hamite nations. The Hamites are known as the so-called Africans, okay? So yes, we are not Africans, we're not Hamites, we're Israelites, all right? We're Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. So these are other allies, and you know, over the past few years, Russia has been building this relationship with Africa. I remember an article came out, I can't even remember the year, but maybe in the past 2 years that Vladimir Putin went over to Africa, and they had this big summit with the rest of the leaders there. So that alliance is building over time, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarma, of the north quarters, and all his bands and many people with thee. And here it is right here. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarma. This is referring to Turkey, all right? The Turkish people, the country of Turkey, right? will be a major ally to Russia in the World War III. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So Russia will be a guard unto Turkey. But Turkey is a part of NATO, right? This is biblical prophecy, all right? That America's allies will ultimately turn against her and burn her with fire. Okay, Revelation chapter 16 and verse 17. Nope, 17 and verse 16. And the 10 horns, which is the European Union, which thou sawest upon the beast, which is NATO, thee shall hate the whore is America, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So they're going to burn her with fire. But you see here it mentions, and shall eat her flesh. So over time, before, America's destroyed by that thermonuclear fire, which includes her allies, aiding in that destruction, her own allies are going to be making moves that weaken her over time. And we've clearly seen that. We've seen it from France, Germany, the UK, Turkey, obviously, which is a part of NATO, and just other countries that, it's so much information, it's impossible to retain all of it. But if you've been doing your research, you can clearly see that America's allies been making certain kinds of moves. For example, there were talks about some of the NATO members over there in Europe wanted to find an alternative to the SWIFT payment method. Now, if you know about the SWIFT payment method, then you know how huge that is. And if you don't know why it is huge, I do suggest that you do independent research in regards to that. Okay, but they will do this. Now, let's just read the article. Russia and Turkey have reached an agreement in principle to switch some of the payments for Russian natural gas to rubles as part of the deepening trade ties between the two countries, the Turkish Energy Ministry announced on Thursday. Now, natural gas, the greenback, the US dollar, right? That should come to mind immediately. The move to avoid payments in US dollars helps both countries. Russia has called the currency toxic as Western sanctions make it difficult to conduct transactions. It also helps Turkey protect its dwindling hard currency reserves. Last week, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan confirmed that Ankara would start paying for some natural gas imports from Russia in rubles after several hours of talks with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in Sochi. The two nations also signed a roadmap for economic cooperation that envisages bringing bilateral trade turnover to $100 billion a year. The presidents also discussed a broad range of issues, including Ukrainian grain exports. Earlier this month, Putin said EU countries should be grateful to Turkey for ensuring a reliable supply of Russian gas to the bloc via the Turk Stream pipeline. The agreements come amid unprecedented Western sanctions on Russia over its military operation in Ukraine. Turkey has refused to join the sanctions and instead has pushed for truce talks between Moscow and Kiev. So, biblical prophecy. It's so beautiful to see, man, literally just happening right in front of our eyes. There is a build up to these prophecies, and it literally really is in real time. Now let's read some of the comments, because I looked at some of the comments earlier, and it's quite, USA is such a bully that it sees countries trading in their own currency as a violation of something. Ditch the USD, ditch SWIFT, ditch USA, ditch the sanctions. Good on Russia and Turkey. Seems every day there are more countries moving away from the toxic dollar. Trade in bilateral currencies, ditch the US dollar. Every step toward de-dollarization expedites the fall of the imperialistic empire of lies, which is really the empire of the Edomites. That's what we're seeing, the fall of the kingdom of the Edomites, which is you so-called white people. It's the irony of it all, because a lot of these comments are from Edomites themselves. But once again, there is that in-house fighting, man. Edomites be hating Edomites, man. North American Edomites and European Edomites, they always be fighting. Being a part of, I play video games and stuff, online video games, there's always this war against NA and versus EU. And then the Russians, both of them just ignore the Russians and see them as lesser filth, right? But that's that Edomite fighting. Though Turkey is a member of NATO, they get stepmom's treatment. I guess it's time for Turkey to understand who is a more reliable friend. You see, So Turkey really is understanding who is a more reliable friend, and it is going to be Russia. Why? Because of biblical prophecy. All right. So I mean, that's how it is. Can get another precept in the book of Obadiah. Probably end it there. This book of Obadiah. And verse 7, all the men of thy confederacy, all the men of thy alliance, okay, covenant, pledge, and that's what the NATO has, the European Union, that's what they have, the members, right? Have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread, they that have benefited off of whatever it is that you've done. So all of these countries have benefited from what America has done. Okay, they eat at the same table as America, right? She may be sitting at the center with the biggest chair, but the rest of them, all of those Edomite-led countries, they are first world countries. They benefit, you know. But they that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee, right? There is none understanding in him. That wound under thee, that flesh, that's being eaten, right? America's allies are making moves to make her, that are weakening her, and it's all going to lead to eventual destruction. All right. So with that, I'd like to say all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Shemishai, Bashim Kodesh, Wa Abad Babal, Shalom.